Have you ever wondered what happened to Cain, the first murderer in history? Did he live the rest of his life in peace? Or did he meet a tragic and violent end? What if I told you that the Bible might hold the key to understanding his death between the lines of its pages? Today, we're going to explore one of the greatest hidden mysteries in the Holy Scriptures, the end of Cain. After committing the first murder in history, did Cain have a peaceful life or a violent and unexpected death, like his brother? And what if I told you that Cain might have been killed by his own descendants, and that this answer is in the Bible, but you never paid attention? In this video, I will show you that this is not just a theory, but a fact. The Bible mentions a book called the Book of Jasher, which tells the story of Cain's death. Now you will discover how this is possible and why no one ever told you about it. Did the church try to hide this book that details the early history of the world and all of Cain's descendants? Get ready to know once and for all who killed Cain. Moreover, we will find out that Cain's descendants were the first to achieve great financial success on earth. Why did God allow this? We will meet a cattle farmer, the inventor of the first musical instruments, and the first maker of iron weapons, such as spears and others. But before we dive into this fascinating story, I want to remind you that this channel is dedicated to biblical stories in chronological order. In the last video, we talked about Cain's sons, Mehujael and Methusael, and discussed why their stories are hidden in the Bible. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you watch it to follow the entire chronology. Continuing our chronological journey through the Bible, we come to Genesis chapter 4, verses 19 to 24, which say,
Lamech took 2 wives for himself. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other, Zillah. Adah gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play the harp and flute. Zillah also gave birth to Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools, and Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, "Listen to my voice, wives of Lamech. Pay attention to my words, for I have killed a man for wounding me, and a young man for striking me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times.
In the previous video, we told the story of Methusael, Lamech's father, and how, through his name MTVSHR, which means he who is of God, we can infer that he was probably a good and God-fearing man. Methusael must have been very happy with the birth of his son, living in the great city that Cain, his ancestor, had started to build. The city continued to grow, while Methusael probably taught his son Lamech about the family's history. He told him how Cain, his ancestor, ended up in the land of Nod, fleeing from the vicinity of Eden after killing his brother Abel. Years passed, and Lamech met Adah and Zillah, who would become his wives. Here we notice that Lamech did something entirely different from the customs of the time, as he was the first man in history to marry 2 women. Adah was probably a woman of exceptional beauty, as indicated by the meaning of her name in Hebrew, which comes from the verb ada, meaning to adorn or to beautify. Zillah, whose name means shadow or protection, could be seen as a figure of comfort and security in Lamech's life. Both wives became pregnant by Lamech and gave birth to sons who excelled in different areas. Jabal, Adah's son, grew up showing a special affinity for animals. From a young age, he liked to accompany his father in farm activities and spent hours helping to take care of the herds Jubal, Jabal's brother, and also Ada's son, showed a different inclination from an early age. While Jabal was in the fields, Jubal dedicated himself to music. He always tried to create new instruments to accompany his mother's songs, Ada. Years later, Lamech, probably already old, saw his sons multiply his fortune. Jabal had built a place where he sold tents and began to trade the family's livestock, such as cattle, sheep, and goats, being considered the first great farmer in history. His brother Jubal enlivened the city's parties with his new inventions, the harp and the flute. Tubal Cain, Lamech's son with Zillah, was also his father's pride. He began using copper to make various objects, including tools and weapons. Tubal Cain made spears, axes, and swords, which helped facilitate hunting in the region. His skill in working with metals brought significant advances to his community, making him a pioneer in metallurgy. However, one day, probably after a party and in the presence of some friends to show off, Lamech came and told his wives that he had killed two people, a man who wounded him and a young man, possibly a child. He boasted, saying that he would be forgiven 77 times because he considered himself better than Cain. But the Bible does not comment further on this topic. With the Bible's silence, another book can help us understand what really happened. The Book of Jasher, an apocryphal text that retells and expands biblical stories, mentions who the man and the young man Lamech killed were. And this man was none other than Cain himself. According to the Book of Jasher, Lamech was hunting with his son, Tubal Cain. Tubal Cain, who was young, guided his nearly blind father and heard something moving in the distance. Thinking it was an animal, Tubal Cain pointed for his father to shoot. Lamech, trusting his son, shot an arrow, which struck and killed Cain. When they approached, they realized they had killed Cain, the ancestor who had committed the first murder in history. Upon discovering that he had killed Cain, Lamech was deeply disturbed and, in his anguish, accidentally killed his own son Tubal Cain. You might be thinking that the Book of Jasher is fake, but what if I told you that the Bible itself cites the Book of Jasher twice?
Joshua 10:13 says, "And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is this not written in the Book of Jasher?" 2 Samuel 1:18 says the following, "And he ordered that the sons of Judah be taught the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the Book of Jasher."
And now, have we been deceived? Why didn't the Bible tell us that Lamech had killed Cain? Did religious leaders hide this book from us? The answer may surprise you, but it is simple. The Bible does not tell this story because it is simply fake. The Book of Jasher existed, which is why it is mentioned in the Bible. However, the problem is that it simply disappeared. There are no copies and no citations other than those in the Bible about this book. The version that contains the story of Lamech and Cain, among others, was written during the Middle Ages by unknown authors who used the name of the Book of Jasher to give legitimacy to their narratives. These stories were added to expand and explain details that the Bible left out, but they have no basis in the original text mentioned in the scriptures. Lamech is probably one of the first and most cruel men in history. In the Bible, we clearly see that he boasts of killing a man for wounding him, and, at another time, says he killed a young man for striking him. The cruelty becomes even more evident when we analyze the Hebrew word wild, yeled, which can be translated as child or adolescent. Furthermore, Lamech believed he deserved to be forgiven by God 77 times. considering himself better than Cain because he killed 2 people instead of 1. What do you think about this? Did you know about the Book of Jasher? What is your opinion about Lamech and his sons, Tubal, Cain, Jabal, and Jubal? And get ready, in the next video, we will talk about the descendants of Adam. How could they live so long? I will scientifically prove to you that yes, it was possible to live almost 1,000 years in ancient times. You do not believe me? Then subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. If you like this video, leave your like and see you in the next video.